Hey guys, welcome back to the Cast. I'm Josh, your host, and I first of all want to thank you guys. I was going to thank you guys for 100 subscribers, but I was too late. Now we're at 123, so thank you to all 123 of you. If you guys aren't subscribed yet, which 98% of you watching aren't, then you guys can hit that button below and help throw us into the algorithm, spread out even more, spread out the channel, spreading out positivity, spreading out joy, just as St. Philip Mary did. Today, I am with someone who you guys will see often on this show because he's my boss. He's actually next door. But we're going to keep him with the show theme of being virtual. This is Father James Porter, and I'm going to let him kind of tell you a little bit about him. But first of all, Father, how you doing?
Well, I'm doing great,
You've
Josh.
been
And
you've been busy today.
yeah, thank you for finally having me on the podcast.
Yeah,
Even though we work right next door to each other, I know you've had a number of different guests on here, so I know it's been great. And
yeah,
123 subscribers in a few months' time, actually,
yeah.
not too shabby.
Yeah, it's been great, and I want to make sure I got some guests on here that then I could be like, if it just flops, then I wouldn't feel bad. It's like
Oh
I
yeah,
don't want. I'm not gonna
no,
waste
no,
all
no.
this
I
time.
didn't think, like Steve Kunzweiler and all of them. I mean,
Yeah,
just great guests and
yeah, great guys.
and uh, and yeah, well, to kind of get into it,
Yeah,
as you said, I'm the pastor of St. Philip Neri, the university parish here at the University of Tulsa, and my primary responsibility is to help college students here be saints, and the faculty and the staff here to feel that they have the tools that they need to grow in holiness, to grow in community, to know their faith, and to live it out and draw others to that faith, like Saint Philip Neri did in Rome in I forget when. I think the 16th century,
yeah, I
somewhere
think
around
so.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah, and so just to give you a little bit of I guess a background on
yeah,
myself, I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I was raised Catholic, but being raised Catholic in Detroit is kind of like telling people you're Irish or you're German.
hmm
There's that cultural background, but being raised in the church, I was more what people might refer to as catechized, not necessarily evangelized.
yeah,
But my father, God rest his soul, took great pains to make sure that I knew the faith as best as he could, and always remember going to church with him, like just like enjoying, just like the everyday and enjoying life in the church. I was an altar server. I, did all of these sorts of things, and but again, like the gospel wasn't preached to me in that particular way, and so I kind of grew up, in this sort of like Catholic bubble. And it wasn't until I moved to Oklahoma, starting high school, that bubble kind of popped.
yeah, yeah.
And I remember going to high school. I moved to Sand Springs after coming from Detroit, Michigan, to Sand Springs, Oklahoma. And of course, you and I grew up across the river from one another.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't know until later on, but so you
Yeah.
said in Detroit it was just highly Catholic in your area in your circle.
Oh yeah, I remember
Yeah,
just along the main stretch of road, which was called Beach Daily. There were 5 to 6 Catholic churches in a
wow,
3 mile radius from each other.
my gosh,
Oh
that's
yeah,
that's
and they
wild.
were all full. I mean, like,
Yeah,
they. I say all full. I mean, they closed several of them.
yeah,
But like growing up, I remember distinctly seeing all these churches full,
yeah.
and this was in the '90s. And so, yeah, and I went to parochial school, which is, for those of you who are listening who don't know what that is, it's a Catholic school or parish school from kindergarten through 4th grade, and then public school throughout the rest of my education up until I entered the seminary right out of high school. Um, yeah, and
Yeah,
so yeah, I just grew up in Detroit,
mhm.
super Catholic. I remember in public school people talking about what fish fry they're going to go to on
Yeah,
Friday.
yeah,
Um, and then I moved to Oklahoma, and virtually everyone that I knew was Protestant.
yeah,
I think I was one of only like 4 or 5 from the whole high school that were Catholic,
yeah.
which was a very different environment. I remember friends asking me if I was saved or why we like pray to Mary. We don't pray to Mary, obviously, in the same way that we
Yeah.
pray to Jesus. We ask Mary's intercession. As you know, we venerate her,
Yeah.
um, recognizing God is the ultimate mediator between Christ is the ultimate mediator between God and man, and
Hmm.
and so yeah. So anyway,
Yeah.
but like growing up, I didn't really know all of that that I
Yeah.
know now, and so I was trying to like scramble to find answers to all these objections, and that's really when I began to learn that all of these people kind of attacking the church, and not maliciously so for the most
Yeah.
part. I mean, they
Yeah.
were just curious,
Yeah.
and I learned from that either the church is absolutely true or the church is absolutely not true. And
Yeah.
the reason why I learned from that is like if all these people were like asking and criticizing and all of that, it had to mean something.
Hmm.
Because if didn't mean anything, they would have just left it alone.
Yeah.
And this is again in my high school brain, high school mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah, I
yeah,
can't imagine being Catholic in high school because I wasn't. But in Berryhill, there's one now, but there were no Catholic churches around, and there's the traditional Latin Mass church. But seminarian Luke Land and I went to the same high school, and he converted as well. And even him was the other day was like, I don't think there was any Catholics, at least not outwardly showing Catholics in Berryhill.
right. And most of Oklahoma, being so rural, if you live in the same rural town for
Hmm.
most of your life and there's not a Catholic church there, you may not experience or meet another Catholic.
Yeah.
Um, that's just the nature of
Hmm.
things in a missionary diocese such as ours.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then
That's awesome.
so the question might be asked, well, if that's where you were,
Hmm.
how did you get to be a Catholic priest?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm definitely going there next because I love this story. I love love the beginning of it and all of it. But yeah, yeah, take us to your vocation story from that the confession all the way until like where you're at now, basically.
Right. So as you alluded to, in freshman year, I was here in Sand Springs, and um, they separate out the ninth grade center from the rest of the high school, which is kind of unique because most high schools throughout the country just do a straight 9 through 12. All right. So anyway, I'm walking from the ninth grade center to the library, which the shortest route takes you past the Catholic Church. And I was walking past the Catholic Church, and all of a sudden I heard this voice. And I knew it wasn't from me because I would never have done it otherwise. And there was this voice that said, "Go to confession. You need to go to confession." And I was like, where the heck is this coming from? And so, I was like, all right, I'll go. And I knock on the rectory door, and this very old priest uh, comes out by the name of Father Martin Morgan. And I had known Father Morgan since I moved to Sand Springs, and I don't know when this would have been. Probably maybe in the springtime, freshman year. I don't know.
Yeah.
And so he hears my confession, and then afterwards, I just kind of blurt out that I want to be a priest. And growing up, I thought maybe, but it's also like I like girls, and priests are celibate, and so I'm like, not really for me.
Mhm.
But, he hears my confession. I blurt it out. He gives me advice that I completely ignore,
Mhm.
like take Spanish and, and all these different things. And so I just go on my merry way and don't think too much of it.
Yeah.
And then, and so like a year or two, I'm looking ahead to colleges, and my grades are good enough to get me into college, but not good enough to qualify for as much financial aid. So I'm thinking, okay, I want to be a psychologist, because I want to help people. I like the mind. Even now, psychology is a kind of a hobby of mine.
Mhm.
Um, and um, anyway, I thought I would go to community college, get the gen eds out of the way, and then transfer to like Oklahoma State University, major in psychology. I probably would have transferred it to marketing or something like that because I wanted to make money. And you can make money in psychology, of course, but like there's also the fact that I my math scores were not as good, and you had to take calculus and psychology. So, anyway, moving on. I'm thinking about these things, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, again, that voice comes back, the voice of the Holy Spirit that I know now, and to say like, all right, you need to discern the priesthood. And it's like, where the heck is this coming from?
Yeah.
I like girls, and I'm not, thinking celibacy, not really for me.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I'm nowhere near as good of a Catholic as what I need to be a priest. And so I'm thinking, okay, I'll go and check it out and just see, because again, it was just like out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, and again, I'm still altar serving at this point, and so after serving Mass, I go down and I try and find Father Morgan and can't find him. But then as I'm about to leave, I feel this tap on the shoulder. And I turn around and there's Father Morgan. And after like 2 or 3 years of not mentioning this to anyone, I didn't even tell my dad about it. He says, "James, would you still like to be a priest?" And he has this low voice. And
You're like, God? Oh no, Father.
yeah, no, not Morgan Freeman style. Just like more of like a deeper baritone that you expect out of a man in his 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, this is a little weird.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about this. God put it in my proverbial lap, and so I remember it was the following Thursday. I went and spoke with Father Morgan after school, and we set up a discernment group with Father Matt Gerlach. Got me in touch with he was the vocation director at the time, and the vocation director is someone that's meant to help you discern your vocation and to help you kind of get in contact with like resources and people that kind of can help you figure out God's will for your life. And so he got me into a discernment group. I went on a couple of seminary visits, and so then I had a choice to make. I could either go to community college and follow that plan, and I was working at the library at the time, the Charles Page Library, and I was like, okay, well maybe I can like do that throughout community college and whatnot. And I had a bit of a plan there, or I can, and there was also a girl that I happened to like at the time, so there's that factor.
Yeah.
Or I can go into the seminary and become a better man of God, a better husband and father. Because again, I'm still not thinking that I'm going to be a priest.
Yeah.
But I knew that I needed to figure this out, and that I couldn't go into like the world and do it. Mm-hmm. That just was my mindset. I was just very worldly minded, but yeah, I knew I wanted to serve God. I wanted to do all these things, and then and so then in the spring of 2010, I was accepted as a seminarian for the Diocese of Tulsa. I had just graduated from high school, and I went to college seminary. And so I went to Conception Seminary College in Sand Springs. It's not in Sand Springs. Conception Seminary College in Missouri. Yeah. It's in the northwest corner of Missouri. And if you think going from Detroit to Sand Springs is hard, going from Sand Springs to the whatever fields of Missouri was like, it was maddening.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, and
is it basically the seminary and like nothing else around, really, or?
Yeah, it's pretty much it. There were wind farms, and so you can see the wind farms. Yeah. They have like some like these kind of like Oklahoma-esque towns of like 150 people, 25. I mean, it's just again, like and it's in Missouri or Missouri, depending upon how you want to pronounce it. Yeah. If anyone's listening from Missouri, I apologize for the joke.
I was actually just looking at our list of the top cities, and I think it was like number 12, and it was some town in Missouri I've never heard of.
Well,
they won't be on there anymore.
Yes, for you out there, I actually do enjoy the state of Missouri, but you know, gotta lighten up the humor for the
Oh yeah,
podcast, you know.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then and what really, as often happens in life, what brings you to a place is not always what keeps you in the place, right? And so, like, the early fervor that that you go into marriage with, isn't necessarily what sustains you through 50,
Yeah,
60 years of marriage, right?
yeah,
And the ultimate answer of that, of course, is remaining close to the Sacred Heart of Jesus, the Immaculate Heart of Mary, and the Chaste Heart of Joseph.
yeah.
But, in the seminary, my freshman year, my dad died. And it was just my dad and I. I'm an only child. And in that isolation, that loneliness that one feels when they lose a parent and lose kind of like the connection, I found God. And I heard his voice clearly to say, and it took me years to understand this, that I have made you for myself. And that in that isolation, in that loneliness that you feel, I began to understand the reality of the cross. And I was a very unseasoned young man. I was always well mannered, but social consciousness was not a thing for me. And just like you're an 18-year-old kind of like brash guy, athletic, just going through all these sorts of things, and and so the monks at Conception really helped me to get to a place where I could actually begin to really take formation seriously and to really, and of course, to like grow in prayer life. And they taught me how to pray. They taught me the love of the
Hmm.
Lord. And then I
Yeah,
went to Cincinnati, Ohio, and the priests there really like, there's a great line in the scripture is of like gold being tried in the fire.
mm,
And that's kind of how I
yeah,
felt the first couple of years. It's just like
yeah.
hammering out the impurities and like all of the
Hmm.
different things. And I had this priest formator, Father Brausch, and he sounds as gruff as he is German. Beautiful soul. I mean, like 6'2", 6'3", very like. I mean, the man can like almost practically split apart a log with his bare hands and then
Hmm.
quote Saint Therese of Lisieux. And he really helped me in a lot of ways. And then I did a pastoral year, and Father Brian Brooks really helped me as well. And in all of that prayer and all the things, I began to realize the Lord is calling me to be a priest,
Yeah.
and not just calling me, but I will be a priest,
Hmm.
and that I can do priestly ministry. That
Yeah.
confidence to be able to do it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and then I was ordained a priest June 28th, 2019, which that year was the Sacred Heart of Jesus.
Oh, that's
And so,
awesome.
like, yeah, and it was just, it was beautiful.
Yeah. And I know you and Father Brooks are really close. Oh, so you were signed with him for the first 3 years. But do you feel like he kind of took on like a fatherly role for you?
I think so. I think I've had, you know, I've been blessed, Josh, to have a lot of really great father figures in my life.
Hmm.
Um, my dad and I never really had the best relationship, but I will say that the man loved the Lord, and he taught me right from wrong, and he taught me to be well mannered. And and as I've grown older, I've come to respect him a lot more.
Hmm.
And I've also been blessed with a number of other really great father figures, including Father Brian Brooks, Bishop
Yeah.
Condrela,
Hmm.
Bishop Slattery,
Yeah.
and
Was
yeah,
Bishop
just so
Slattery bishop when you first went to seminary?
yeah. So Bishop
Okay.
Slattery was the first bishop when I entered the seminary,
Okay.
and now he's the Bishop Emeritus of the diocese, so he's in retirement. And and other priests and my brother, seminarians.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, because I remember at Enlighten talking to Father Brian Brooks, and yeah, we were just talking, and I was like, "Hey, you were with Father Porter for 3 years. Like, how was it?" And I felt the same way he talked about you is the exact same way I talk about Benedict with my son. And so it was cool. I was like, whoa. So I tell people that all the time. I'm like, Father Brian Brooks is a great person. But I was like, but you should talk to him sometime because he really talks about Father Porter like I talk about my son, and so it's pretty cool. And I've had other people say I've actually talked to about him about Father Porter to Father Brian Brooks too. I feel the exact same way.
Yeah.
So
No, and it's true. And in fact, he's about ready to start his sabbatical Memorial Day, and
yeah,
yeah, and he, uh, he's been a priest for over 30 years, and you know, again, just a really awesome priest, and
yeah.
who also has some like obscure hobbies.
Mhm.
He likes Civil War reenactments
Oh yeah,
and doing all those
forgot
sorts
about
of things,
that.
and just a huge history nerd.
Yeah, mhm. Yeah,
So, and which also like is great because we used to sit around a coffee table in the morning before we go either to mass or to our day, and
yeah,
just talk about like what's going on, and like he'd
mhm.
break out some obscure historical fact that I'm just like only you would know
yeah,
exactly where, like which soldier or something was on like the Battle of Antietam or something. I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah,
Lindsay
but
does
yeah,
stuff
so I've
like
been
that too.
blessed with a lot of really awesome father figures throughout my
Yeah,
life,
it's
and
awesome.
also some really awesome motherly figures.
Mhm.
And I've joked with the parishioners at St. Benedict's, which was my first assignment as a priest,
Mhm.
and others just like it takes a village to keep me in line. And so yeah, and even now, like I like as chaplain and pastor of the university parish, like I exercise that spiritual fatherhood as all priests do, right? So all priests share in, you know, in the one priesthood of Jesus Christ, but there's also the fact that as a ministerial priest, as I am, I share in a unique way in the ministerial priesthood of Christ, which is a little bit different than the priesthood of the baptized, but still
Yeah,
supplementary and
yeah,
complementary, as Vatican Council II says. But then there's also the beauty of the fact that for me, in this parish community, I am the father to the community. Bishop is all, and like you can go through the hierarchy, but like God
yeah,
has
yeah,
placed me here. And so I'm the father to the community. And so I take that role very seriously.
yeah,
And sometimes that means teaching people, how to, tie a tie, or teaching people how, to not take themselves so seriously. Other times that means, you have to like have an accountability and be able to like say, hey, I love you,
mhm.
but you're not doing what you need to do and you're not living up to your full potential.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's hard for a lot of college students to hear because a lot of college students, just like I was when I was 18 starting out, there's a lot of woundedness and a lot of
Yeah,
brokenness that you have to
yeah,
like sift through. Because
yeah,
college students nowadays are going through a lot that they just previous generations, they've gone through things, but it's a little different.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's a little bit easier to have those conversations of like, hey, like having those tough conversations with students when like you have a great relationship with them. So I think that's something that I've always noticed that you always are so intentional with the students and getting to know them. We can't walk across campus without you saying hi to every single person, and so I feel like that is always such an important part. And I think you do really well. And then that leads to being able to say, hey, like let's talk or whatever. So we talked about that discipleship this morning with Branson, just about how like that stuff has to come out of a relationship, or it doesn't work. And there's evangelization in general too has to come out of a place of a relationship, or that's why I don't really respond to anyone who comments terrible things below. It's just like it's got to come out of that relationship. It's not going to happen in the comment section.
Right. And I think, the priest I was with last year, Father Kerry Wakulich, had this line I've adopted, and it says, rules without relationship breed rebellion. And that's kind of the same, along the same lines that, if you have a relationship with someone and you tell them, hey, you're not, like, you're violating these rules, you're violating that which you're made for, uh, or also like challenging them higher in a positive way and say, hey, by doing this, you're actually going to grow a lot more than what you think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, that is predicated on having some sort of relationship,
Yeah,
right? And um, yeah, and you just think about all of what goes on in our society. It's anti-relationship. and
Yeah.
in the authentic sense of the word.
Yeah.
Right? It's all about the individual. It's all about like isolating oneself, about like individual achievement, individual like goals, versus like the communal life and the life of beauty that comes from authentic friendship.
Yeah.
And not just a friendship that's based off of utility or a friendship that's based off of just like the blandness of like, I don't know. I'm not a big video game person, but I imagine like playing video games and whatnot. There's some positive things, also negative things.
Mhm.
So anyway,
Yeah.
that's an aside. But like the
Yeah.
point is like getting them to actually like communicate and grow in friendship is
Yeah.
predicated off of a relationship, and then you can
Yeah.
challenge them.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's awesome. So what I always tell people from your vocation story is if you ever feel that need to blurt something out to a priest, just do it because you never know what could come about. But yeah, thanks for sharing that. Like I said, I love that story. That's why I was like, I know exactly what I want to start with, and that's your vocation story. But now I want to get into some of your time here. I did have one more question though. I know obviously when it comes to placements for priests, like God places them with like through bishop. But did you know like going to Stillwater, you were only going to be there for 1 year, and then you would come here, or was that kind of hey, we're sending you to Stillwater, and you just thought, I'll probably be here for a few years?
A good question. The answer is when I went to Stillwater, and so I was at, to back up a little bit, I was
Yeah,
at St. Benedict's for 3 years, which included through the lockdown and through kind of like the hardest parts of COVID. And then you get a call, um, and Bishop Condola says, after consultation with so and so and all that, I've decided to move you to be parochial vicar or associate pastor of St. John in Stillwater, or when I was moved here, he called me and said, I'm going to name you pastor of the university parish. And so when you go there, there's not like, he doesn't say, there wasn't like a term limit or anything.
yeah,
So I thought that I was going to be at St. John's for like a few years. Associate pastors tend to get moved around a lot more than
yeah,
pastors. So I
yeah,
thought I was going to be there for a couple of years.
hmm,
And then I thought, maybe I'll be placed in a campus ministry.
yeah, yeah,
But I thought more that I would be in a small rural parish.
hmm,
Um, but the Lord, of course, has other plans, and
yeah,
that's all well and good.
yeah,
I never envisioned myself actually doing campus ministry.
hmm,
I always thought like, family ministry and other things, kind of like what most people experience in their
yeah,
average parochial setting.
yeah,
But I really enjoy the work,
hmm,
and yeah, I guess we're getting into
yeah,
like the present time here, but
yeah, yeah.
I
For the
really do enjoy it.
past first, like looking back onto this past year at the St. Philip area, like just some highlights. Do you have any like standout times or like anything that stood out to you specifically?
Yeah,
Which student was your favorite? No, I'm just kidding.
they're all my favorite.
Good. Okay. Good answer.
Yeah, yeah, that's the correct response to that.
We were
Yeah,
gonna play a game where we rank them all, but we'll table that.
yeah, the dartboard has been put away. Um, yeah, to answer your question, I think one of the most beautiful parts of the past year has been seeing the growth in the parish. More people have been just like asking questions about Catholicism. I go out on campus virtually every day, and someone will come up and just say, "Hello, Father Porter," and I terrible with names, absolutely atrocious. I used to not be, but you know, when you just see someone for like a split second here
Yeah.
or a split second here on campus, it's hard for me to actually get to know people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I'll always say hi and always be cordial and ask them how things are going.
Yeah.
But that's been one of the beautiful things. And like people coming up asking me to pray for them, I love that. I love when people ask me to pray for them, and I pray for them right then and there.
Yeah.
Um,
I got to experience that on like the second day of us knowing each other. We got to Louisville. Remember, we went to breakfast downstairs in the hotel, and that lady was like, "Father, will you pray for me?" And like you stopped right then and there, and we prayed. And there were like people around, and they were just watching. Like,
yeah, I forgot about that.
yeah, that trip was a little scary, but we don't get into that.
Yeah.
Just the drive.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and so I that was kind of a highlight of this year is just seeing the church grow.
Yeah.
We received a couple of people into the church at Easter, and that
Yeah.
was beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, I love the Easter vigils, my favorite. I
Yeah.
call it the granddaddy of all vigils.
Yeah.
So getting to just celebrate the liturgical life with the students
Hmm.
and also just some of the spontaneous moments of laughter that
Yeah.
bust out. There's not like a particular moment, but I just love coming into the church and seeing the people hanging around here.
Yeah.
They're busting out jokes, they're talking classes, and
Yeah.
because to me that's just such a natural thing, and
Yeah.
and so and then I guess another aspect that I really enjoyed was during the football games. I would go out, go into the stands in the student section, and students would greet me, and there were these few students that just like invited me over, and we just hung out for a while,
Hmm.
and the student section and all that, and that was nice, and just kind of
Yeah.
being able to let them know that they are loved and cherished by a Catholic priest,
Yeah.
you know and not needing anything from them,
Yeah.
right? And I have my own set of friends, my own set of like community, but I'm just here to love them as Jesus loves them and call them higher.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think speaking from last year to this year, exactly what you said. It's so cool to see the growth from even just people hanging out in the parish. Like you this past semester in the spring, especially, you couldn't really walk through the parish without seeing someone in each room. And I'm specifically remembering finals week when they had all those like cookies and snacks and everything. We put out some of the snacks. Paul made a bunch of those cookies, and there was like 10 people studying in the cafeteria at one time, and they're all like having fun. I think someone was playing Mario or one of those Super Smash Brothers. Um, but then, like, you'd walk in later, and then everyone was just silent, and they were just studying, but everyone was just there. That was super cool. You'd walk upstairs and see theology tea going on, or like people just hanging out, and focus missionaries hanging out, doing Bible studies, whatever it was. But there were a lot, like a pretty great increase from last year to this year as far as students just being here to be here. It's awesome.
Yeah, and that's what I like. I like because the church exists to go out, and the church exists to evangelize,
Yeah,
and it also exists. Like we focus a lot, of course, of going out to the periphery, as our Holy Father has talked about. There's also the building up of the church within, right? And so you need both to go out and to call people and invite people, but also the building up of the church within. And so focusing on both of those aspects and to see, and it's all the work of the Holy Spirit. And the
yeah,
Lord has done a beautiful job. He always does a beautiful job, of course,
yeah,
because
yeah,
he's Jesus. Uh, but there's just a beautiful life. And one of my prayers that I pray every day is, Lord, give me souls, like fill the parish, like
yeah,
it's your church, like I trust in you in all things, and sometimes the Lord puts, says, all right, I'm going to take you at your word, but
yeah,
there's a great beauty in that.
yeah. That's awesome. What about the present, like right now in the summertime? I don't know if there's anybody out there that actually thinks this, but maybe someone thinks like, okay, a campus priest, so he just takes the whole summer off. What are you up to this summer? Because I know June looks crazy for you.
Yeah, yeah. I just go to Cancun and just
Yeah,
uh, yeah, just put my feet up. No, uh, um, I'm pretty sure my staff would kill me if I left for that length of time. Anyway, to answer your question, the summertime there it does slow down. So campus ministry, kind of grinds to a halt because there are no students around.
yeah,
Uh, but there it doesn't mean that we don't do anything. So a lot of what I do right now is more of like administrative tasks,
hmm,
and a lot more of the day to day, like like governance of the parish. And there's a lot of planning that's going on. So next week I'll be in a planning meeting talking about next semester, reaching out to certain people, just seeing how they're doing. Also, reaching out to college students. Just
hmm,
because they're not here doesn't mean they're not somewhere.
yeah,
And want to make sure that they know that we haven't forgotten about them, that we're looking forward to having them back in the fall.
Yeah.
And so putting those things together. My June is going to be a lot of traveling. So I'm
Hmm.
the priests get together for what's called a convocation, so a gathering, calling together, and we'll have like a formation talk, and formation talks actually several over the course of the days, and just also time for priestly fraternity, and which is a huge aspect and a huge part of a priest's life. It's like you need priestly fraternity. No one can
Yeah.
be an island,
Absolutely.
and so yeah. Anyway, so that's part of what I'll do this summer, and then also taking some vacation. I just uh, I'm going on a trip with another priest, and then I'm helping out a parish with a mission trip in Texas. So I'll be um, you know in Austin, and so I'll swing over to the College Station, check out Texas A&M. They don't know it yet, so
So you're just gonna
but
walk
anyway,
in.
but like
Yeah.
it's my plan. So if
Yeah.
there's anyone from the Diocese of Austin that's listening, then I'll be down in the area.
Yeah. There you go.
But yeah, so just doing some of those things, planning, admin work. Um, yeah, and then yeah, and then we gear up, in August for student leadership retreat, move in, and then before you know it, the students will come back and the new school year will begin.
Yeah. Yeah. Welcome weeks. All hands on deck, and we got tons of stuff going on. It's always
Yeah,
fun.
so the first 2 weeks are like the Super Bowl of outreach.
Yeah.
If and like really between the start of school and Labor Day, you gotta, you
Yeah.
know, get them connected and let them know that there's
Yeah.
a, college church here,
Yeah.
a Catholic church here on the college campus that can help.
Yeah. Especially freshmen coming in because you got like that. What do they say? Like in that first week or so, like they'll start picking what they're going to be plugged into. Then all of a sudden they're too busy. Like they can't do an add anymore to their schedule. So you got to get them quick.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let's go. So that kind of leads right to the next question. Then, so what are you most looking forward to next year? Because I know it's great as we've been hearing like almost 1,000, 800 to 1,000 new
It,
freshmen coming in, which is
yeah, it's around
almost double.
800. Yeah, and
Yeah,
well,
almost double that.
yeah, well, also you have to remember like there was also like a few hundred that graduated too,
Yeah, yeah,
right? And so like it'll and so there'll definitely be a net increase in the student population
yeah,
here. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward also to we'll have some new Focus missionaries next year.
yeah, yeah.
Focus Fellowship of Catholic University students, and they're a group of lay men and women who are recent college grads that volunteer. Well, they take a couple of years of their life and they just go out on mission and to evangelize college students, and they help me and help the parish immensely.
Yeah.
And so we're getting a couple of new sorry, a couple of new
Oh, great.
college missionaries,
Yeah, yeah,
um, and then but we'll also get a number of new freshmen coming in,
yeah,
and the sophomores and some of the others that have been here, will help, lead things in the parish and just create events, spontaneously, just like hang out here, just enjoy life. So that's what I'm looking forward to, is just helping
yeah,
the students do that. Um, and like, there are a number of changes that have been happening on campus. So we'll see how that impacts campus ministry. But,
mhm.
I don't think it'll, my mission will be the same, to
Be the
make
same. Yeah,
everyone, by the grace of God, Catholic.
yeah,
And that might sound a little pretentious or a little like pietistic, but really it's the mission of the church that all may be one.
yeah,
And yeah, and it's a beautiful mission
yeah,
you know, on the grounds of TU.
yeah. Absolutely. Well, awesome. Well, I thought we'd close out with a little saint draft. I know we kind of talked about it a little bit. I did not prepare for it as much as I normally do, but that's okay. I do it every single week, so I should be able to come up with stuff off the cuff. So, just a reminder for you. So we'll go back and forth. The guest always goes first, and you'll just draft your top five favorite saints. Well, yeah, favorite, but like your top five saints that they were all alive today. They changed the world, and we'll do a six-man. It's a blessed or something that is kind of our bench player. Yeah, and then you guys can comment below which team you think would be the best. Obviously, there's no wrong answers because it's a team of saints, and at the end of the day, that's amazing. So, yeah, do you have any questions on it, though?
No, we're good.
Okay, I did it, and I was like, cool. Then we'll do a blessed at the end, and right off the bat, Bishop Condor was like, "Blessed Stanley Rother," and I was like, "I'm not going to correct Bishop Condor," so I just went on.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. So you go. You got the first pick, and you pick the saint, and then just give like a brief. Like I would pick the saint because they were.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Saint John Vianney.
Okay.
You know, patron saint of parish priests. Walked around this little town of ours, this sort of backwater, and just said like, and just went door and like took them years, but like made the whole town Catholic, and
Yeah.
and like lines and lines of people in confession, and
Yeah.
for for all stretched out the church and around the block and all that sort of thing, and
That's awesome.
but also just like super holy and ascetical man,
Yeah.
and basically went and did battle with the devil and won. I mean, just
Is he one of the ones that had like an actual like physical battle?
actually like physical,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah.
That's pretty cool. Branson was actually mentioned recently. He was like, "I'm surprised that no one's picked Saint John Vianney yet. You're the first person to pick him, so he just slipped through the
Let's
cracks."
go!
Like there's a dark horse there. All right, so I would probably go a similar route then too, as someone that we'd have to convert a lot of people. So I'd probably go like Saint Francis Xavier, since he's just known for baptizing just hundreds of thousands of people, and so I get him out there. He'd be on the road, on mission. And that's what we go first.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Well, let's see. Saint Teresa of Avila. Yeah. 16th century saint, reformer of the Carmelite order, mystic, doctor of the church, baller of the church, if you will. She, just, just an all around holy, holy woman. And in just like, yeah, I mean, like, her understandings of the divine is just awesome. Plus, I love religious sisters. Like, their spiritual motherhood is just amazing.
Yeah.
And and I wish that we had religious sisters here on campus, because just would be a game changer.
Yeah, that'd be so cool. Which that also didn't surprise me when Cameron said she got into, was it Sisters for Life?
Right, yeah. So Cameron Sulak, one of our former Focus missionaries, was accepted to be a religious sister at the Sisters of Life, and so pray for her.
Pray for her, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so my next one I would go for the leader, the one that would be our Pope, and go JP2. Honestly, don't know as much about him as I should, but I just know he's a great Pope and that he would be a solid leader.
Oh yeah, yeah. If we had more time, I would tell you about him. He's awesome. I would also go with a lesser, more like a blessed, if that's allowed.
Hey, the rules are very gray. They're not black and white.
Okay, so we'll go with Blessed Solanus Casey. I know Bishop Conroy went with Blessed Stanley Rother, but we'll go with Blessed Solanus Casey.
Okay.
From Michigan. So he is actually from Wisconsin, but he was assigned in Michigan. He was what's known as a priest simplex. So because of his education back in the day, he wasn't allowed to hear confessions or preach, but he had a number of healings attributed to him. And like John Vianney, out the door, known for his kindness and just his holiness. I mean, amazing, amazing priest and counselor, and especially for college students. I mean, it's just they wouldn't stand a chance.
Oh yeah, I've never heard of that person, so that's awesome. I'll have to look up that person more too.
Yeah.
Okay, so my third pick, I would go with someone. We're talking about more sisters. So this person she pumped out sisters like crazy. It would be Saint Zelibart. She would lead my family ministry. Actually, I'm not sure. I guess she would lead more the religious vocation. I don't know, but she would do a whole bunch. She's a great mother, great businesswoman, and all her daughters just were just great. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, pick four.
Saint Gianna Baratamola.
Got all sorts of great ones.
Yeah.
I don't know that one either. Which
Yeah.
one? What was
Yeah.
it again?
So she was, I believe, a doctor. I believe she was a doctor.
Which they say Gianna?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Saint Gianna Baratamola. Yeah. So she is, I think, a doctor. Um, and I actually don't know a whole lot about her, other than the fact that she kind of surrendered her life so that way her daughter could have hers, because the doctors were trying to like pressure her to have an abortion, and she wouldn't,
Oh,
and other things. And but just again, uh, she's a highly intelligent woman. You know, go around and just counsel people to in terms of life and other things, and just you
yeah,
know, I think especially on this college campus, in the culture of in a culture of death,
yeah,
she would be able to like speak life into that. So
yeah. Absolutely. That's awesome. I always go with someone that'd be like a faith warrior. There's always like three that I could kind of pick between, like Saint Catherine Siena, Saint Therese of Lisieux. But I think I'm actually going to go to change it up because I feel like I can't just keep doing the same ones each week. And I don't remember which one it is, but the one that had the baby in the prison, it was either Saint Perpetua or Felicity. Um, and they told her dad like all she has to do is renounce her faith and we'll let her go. And then her dad was like, awesome, like let me go tell her. And he went there to tell her, and she's like, no, I won't do it. And she, yeah, and so she was like martyred. But it was so cool, and I always wonder like if I would be that kind of dad that would run to Adeline and tell her like, just do it to survive, or if I would just be like, oh, there was another story, I can't remember what it was, but of another parent who was encouraged, like they killed her kids in front of her, and she just encouraged them just to be brave. And I was like, goodness, but yeah. So I would go. I'll say Perpetua. I know both of them were very good examples of faith and sacrifice.
yeah, and then
Five, and then we'll have a sixth man.
I'm at number 5. I have to go with. I have to go. Well, my students uh, wouldn't like if I went with anyone else, I think, at this point, but maybe St. Thomas Aquinas.
Oh, okay.
You
Yeah.
know, I'm sure a very popular one. Um,
Yeah.
especially just around here, we have like people who are very drawn to mystic thought,
Yeah.
and obviously he did so much in terms of helping to advance the doctrine of the church, and like helping us understand divine revelation.
Yeah.
Uh, Also a mystic and other things, and just just a beautiful priest and monk, and yeah, and and I also feel like a lot of times when I don't understand a concept or something in theology, I know Thomas has talked about it, so
Yeah.
I can just go
He's
and ask him, and
yeah.
yeah, and he'll explain it to me in like 3 or 5 ways. So
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. He knows that first way or two is going to go right over my head, so the other ways will work. Okay, then I would take the guy that'd be the groundwork, and obviously patron saint of this podcast and the church, our church, Saint Philip Neri. He's just great, such a great guy. Patron saint of joy, second apostle of Rome, uh, was just such a great. Like he sacrificed his uncle's business and just hit the road and just one by one just asked people if they're ready to serve God, and just got them plugged in immediately and was just so joyful about it all. And yeah, just think he would be someone that would be kind of have that what they call moral authority over a lot of people. I think he would just be one of those guys that's just such a great guy that people would listen to him. Not Mother Teresa. Everyone loved Mother Teresa. She could give a talk on why abortion's immoral, and people those days would still love her. Nowadays, if you don't have that same kind of moral authority, like I could do a talk on abortion, and people would be like, "Dude, you're an idiot." But yeah, Saint Philip Neri, great guy.
exactly.
Okay, last one, sixth man, a blessed, venerable. I always have a tough.
Oh, well, I'd have to go with the Blessed Mother. I mean,
Oh, okay.
I know, kind of a ultimate cheat code of sorts, but um, you know, uh, I'm pretty sure, all of our saints would not be happy if we didn't go with, or at least with Our Lady, Terror of Demons,
Yeah.
Tower of Ivory, House of Gold. I mean, like, you
Yeah.
just like, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. This we had one time where the person was like, "Can I just pick Mary first?" And I was like, "Well, she'll be a coach." Well, okay. How about you have to pick an apparition? It was
right.
pretty funny.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
Great.
like
Yeah.
in an apparition, I would go Our Lady Undoer of Knots. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah. Mine would be Our Lady of Minot, which kind of leads to my last pick, Virgin of the Poor. But mine would be, I believe it's Venerable Father Aloysius Schwartz. It's from that book, Priests and Beggars, by Kevin Wells. But he basically rebuilt the Catholic Church in South Korea following the Korean War, but then went on to do all the boys' towns and girls' towns, and actually came to Mexico, and he had the devotion to Our Lady of Minot, and he had ALS and went to Mexico around the time he died. But and they asked if he would help do the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. Like, in my condition, I cannot. I'm so sorry. Went to bed that night. Was supposed to catch a flight that next day, and he, like, Our Lady appeared to him, Our Lady of Minot. But as she got closer, she turned into Our Lady of Guadalupe and said to do it. So he woke up, called him the next day, and said, "We're going to do it." And I think he died shortly after they opened those in Mexico City. But it's crazy. His story is so cool. So Priests and Beggars is always a book I recommend to everybody. Awesome.
wow.
Well, cool. All right, you guys comment below which one you guys think would save the world today. I mean, Blessed Mother, so I think we already know which one. But comment below anyway. Thanks again to 123 subscribers, and thank you to Father Porter for being on. I'm sure I'll be hitting you up multiple times to come on. I got a lot of ideas for when the school year starts and the students are back. So,
Well, you know where I work.
oh yeah, right next door. So
That's
you
right.
guys have a blessed day, and we will see you next week.
All right. God bless you.